Part 2 of the 2022 recap takes us through Ontario and over to Quebec. The weather was really pretty nice for mid-May, and my travels along Lake Erie was very relaxing. Long Point and Pictou Nova held many surprises. Ontario truly does have many beautiful provincial parks, and the parks along the shores of the Great Lakes are a magical ecosystem. It really was hard to get the miles in when it seemed like at every turn there was a stunning vista to take in. The Long Point Biosphere Reserve is a rich mosaic of ecosystems and home to one of the largest tracts of Carolinian forest in Canada. With some rainy weather on the way, I only spent one night at Long Point. But the park is definitely worthy of further exploration, and I will be back. Be warned though, if you don't like camping in sand, then Long Point might not be the place for you. But outside of that, it is absolutely beautiful. And if you're looking for a great place with great beaches and great forests, this is definitely a spot to check out. With no real set itinerary, the next stop was going to be Pictou Nova. The ride to Pictou Nova was mainly on the road, but to be honest with you, it really was a pleasant day of riding. This tree tunnel was just outside of Turkey Point, and it really was quite cool. It was kind of had like a Star Wars vibe to it. The Turkey Point area is renowned for its mountain biking in southern Ontario, and it's definitely a place that I would like to check out in the future. The trails look pretty special and look like it would be a great place to mountain bike or hike, so if you're in the area, I would suggest checking it out. If you have time to travel the side roads in this area, it's dotted with these little magical towns that are definitely worth exploration. Many historical buildings and things to learn about the history of the area. So if you're in the area, definitely get off the main roads and check out these secluded side roads. They're really quite enjoyable. Always a horse to pet in the area if you're into that type of thing. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. Pictou Nova sits on the shores of Lake Erie and has an awesome beach town vibe. I was forced to bunker down in Pictou Nova for a couple of days as a damaging storm came through the area. It's the kind of storm where you definitely don't want to be caught in a tent, that's for sure. I met a lot of nice people in Pictou Nova, and I'll definitely be back when I'm in the area. So guys, it was at this point I kind of shifted gears in my approach to filming. After riding across Canada and everything else over the last couple of years, I had kind of gotten in the mindset that I had to film everything every day. That is just not sustainable or enjoyable for that matter. So I made my way up through Toronto and up to Ottawa and into Quebec without doing as much filming, and to be honest with you, it was quite enjoyable for a change of pace. This was my second summer cycling through the province of Quebec. For anybody that hasn't traveled in the province of Quebec on a bicycle, you have to get there, guys. The infrastructure for cycling in Quebec is second to none, and the province itself is just beautiful to behold. So I definitely recommend, if you're into cycling or anything into nature at all, I would definitely recommend getting to the province of Quebec if you have not already. The Cumberland Ferry runs quite often, and the price is very affordable. I believe it was $5 for pedestrians or cyclists.
Oui. I don't know what he said. Not a
The ride getting off the ferry was really quite enjoyable, and the whole ride over this area was very pleasant to ride. There was a lot of great trails and just interesting things to see along the way. Also, as you can see, we visited the town of Thurso, the home of Guy Lafleur for all you hockey fans. This part of the ride was actually quite enjoyable. I believe this was called Plaisance Provincial Park, or in French, I'm not going to try and butcher it, so you can do it on your own. But yeah, this trail ran all the way along the Ottawa River and was just a great, enjoyable ride. After having a couple days on the road, it was really great to get out onto some gravel trails and just kind of get out back into nature, I guess you could say. I made my way through the beautiful Parc National de Plaisance and then on into Montebello, a quaint little Quebec city, or town I should say. From there we made our way to Parc Omega. I have some mixed feelings on Parc Omega. While I had a really good stay there, little research into it after, turns out it's a little more like a zoo than it would be like a sanctuary. But having said that, guys, I really did have a great night there. Really, how often are you going to have the kind of intimate, up-close experience that I had with wolves at this place? My original plans had not been to stay at Parc Omega, but upon arriving and learning about the wolves, I decided to stay the night. And as you'll see, I did rent one of these teepees, and it was a really good experience. Like everything in this park, it was a little overpriced. You'll have to check online for full prices. I honestly don't remember, but it was really cool to stay in a teepee, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a good experience. Like I said, I wish I would have did a little more research on the park. I've never supported zoos or anything like that, but having said that, in the research, I did learn that the park does informational group events there where you can go, I think, twice a day, and they give you educational information on wolves, their plight, and what you can do to help them out. So it's not all bad. It's just, like I said, these things always, anytime there's a profit being made at an establishment, it always makes you wonder in the back of your mind if it is truly for the benefit of the animals, right? So having said that, as far as a campground off the highway, it was really enjoyable. I wouldn't recommend renting these rooms out unless you're filthy rich. I do believe they were about $500 a night. Having said that, they are the most intimate way to see the wolves. As you can see right here, they come right up to the window. Not the biggest enclosure area. That's kind of the thing that first caught my eye. And I know this isn't going to be for everybody. So those of you that don't like to see this kind of thing, I do apologize. And I do understand why you feel that way, as I do feel that way myself. And kind of feel a little guilty endorsing this is kind of what I'm doing right now. So anyways, guys, like I said, it is what it is. And it really was a cool experience and would make me want to do a volunteer thing in a wolf setting in a more natural, true natural area. This is the entranceway to the wolf sanctuary. teepees themselves are quite large and definitely big enough for two people. If you're traveling with bikes, I would say two people. You can get your bikes and your gear and your bodies in there pretty comfortably. I slept pretty comfortably. Those mattresses are comfortable, but I also threw my blow-up air mattress on there at night. But as you can see, you got plenty of room to hang your clothes up to dry out and all that stuff. Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I had kind of seen teepees along my travels over the last couple of years, and I'd always wanted to do it. So, you know what? Like I said, a little more expensive than I wanted, but at least I checked something off the list of things I want to do, right? It being 6:30 in the morning, I had the whole sanctuary to my place, so it really was quite cool to be there by myself with the wolves. This will remain one of my favorite pics of all time. After being on the road for over a month, it was at this point, guys, that a little plan kind of came together. And after being in contact with some good people I knew in Pictou, Nova Scotia, a plan was formulated for me to head there and kind of settle down for a little bit, maybe pick up some work and do some exploring around there. So at this point, I decided once I was in Lachute, Quebec, that I was going to make my way over to Montreal and jump on a train and head to Pictou. This is definitely an interesting stretch of road. This is the Oka Indian Reservation, as you can see, and what we're riding through right here is all their cannabis, tobacco, and alcohol stores. So while I understand this might not be for everybody, I thought it was quite fascinating, and it went on for quite some time. I would say altogether it was a good 10-kilometer stretch of all these different kind of stores. So guys, it's just people doing what they do. After making our way through all the tobacco and cannabis stores, I found myself a nice little trail network that basically, when I stuck to it, took me right to this really nice cement pavement bike path, as you can see. And from there, it took me right into Oka National Park. As you can see, when I arrived in Oka, the forests really had come to life, and everything was quite green, which kind of underlies a little bit of a problem I face, which I will touch on very shortly. But here it is. I'm arriving at my camp at Oka. So it would appear that when I arrived in Oka, they were in the middle of a gypsy moth infestation. And that was the underlying problem that I alluded to earlier. You will see in a second here on my tarp that what's happening is the caterpillars are going up into the canopy. They're eating all the leaves. And those little dots you see on my canopy are actually caterpillar poop. Yes, caterpillar poop. So yeah, it was a weird experience. It sounded like it was raining out, but it was pooping. That's a leaf you can see that the caterpillars are chewing up in the canopy. And as they chew those leaves, they are immediately pooping them out and they are falling to the ground. So Yeah, a very unique and kind of annoying experience to say the least. Um, I would definitely like to go back there when there's not a gypsy moth infestation happening because it is another beautiful provincial park, or in this case, a national park. It is situated on, I believe, on the Lake of Two Mountains, I believe it's called. And there's a lot of different opportunities here between fishing, hiking, mountain biking, and all kinds of outdoor nature opportunities abound in this area. So as I mentioned, I stayed 2 nights at Oka, and from there it was on to Montreal. Just for a little more disclosure, guys, one of the reasons I also kind of decided to head to Pictou and settle down for a bit was my mental health was really suffering quite badly, and I just needed a little time to be around people and not alone so much. So one of the reasons I mention that, guys, is just because I know a lot of people suffer with these problems, and if you are, reach out to me. I'll always be glad to talk to you, for sure. No questions asked. So I really didn't do much filming on the ride into Montreal. It was quite a bit of navigating, but I did jump on the train, as you can see, and made my way to Truro, Nova Scotia. I stayed the night in Truro at Dalhousie University, and then the next morning I jumped on my bike and I rode to Pictou, and that's where we'll leave this story at. We'll catch up in the next one, guys, and on that one I am going to cover the Maritimes, PEI, and Cape Breton.